Detroit, Motor City, the heart of American muscle. For generations, this city was the engine of the American dream, a place for good jobs, home ownership, and hope. The rhythm of Detroit was the rhythm of its factories, the roar of the assembly line its anthem. But in 2025, a new sound took over: silence. Overnight, the gears stopped. The factories froze. The cause? Not war or disaster, but a decision from Washington, D.C. Tariffs, meant to protect American industry, became a wrecking ball. The very policies meant to save Detroit brought it to its knees. The American dream was turning into a nightmare. Detroit has always been resilient, surviving recessions, riots, bankruptcy. But this time, the blow was self-inflicted, pitting American worker against American worker. Promises to bring jobs back rang hollow as livelihoods vanished. This is the story of Detroit's latest crisis, a tale of good intentions, disastrous consequences, and the people caught in the middle. Factories shuttered, communities shaken. Steelworkers, auto workers, small business owners, told they'd be winners, now the biggest losers. The music that powered Motor City stopped, replaced by uncertainty. The story of Detroit in 2025 is the story of America, how a single policy can create chaos. This is how the tariff turmoil began, and how it brought Motor City to a shocking standstill. The silence in Detroit is more than the absence of machines. It's the sound of dreams put on hold. The question now: can the city that built America find a way back? It began with a White House announcement, an economic wall, not of bricks but of tariffs. America First became the rallying cry, with new taxes on imported goods. The plan: make foreign products pricier, so Americans buy American. But the reality was chaos. In July 2025, a new trade deal with the EU set a 15% tariff on most European goods, including cars and parts. Steel and aluminum faced strict quotas. Extra shipments were hit with a crushing 50% tariff. Tariffs weren't just for Europe. China faced up to 50%, Canada threatened with 35%. The global supply chain, built over decades, was thrown into disarray. Detroit's car companies relied on parts from around the world: Mexico, Germany, Japan, South Korea. Suddenly, building a car in Detroit became much more expensive. Steel for frames, chips for dashboards, transmissions from Europe, everything cost more. The architects of this policy hoped companies would buy American, but you can't build new factories overnight. The immediate effect? Not a boom, but a crisis for American producers. The cost of doing business soared. The supply chain seized up. The economic wall meant to protect American jobs was shutting them down instead. Detroit was the first to feel the shockwaves. The first domino to fall was steel, the very industry tariffs were meant to save. American steel doesn't just compete with imports, it supplies the auto industry. When automakers slowed down, steel orders vanished. In March 2025, even before tariffs were finalized, the threat alone caused layoffs. Cleveland-Cliffs, a major steel maker, cut over 1,200 jobs, 600 in Dearborn, Michigan, and 630 in Minnesota mines. The reason car companies stopped buying. The pain spread fast. The United Steelworkers Union reported hundreds more layoffs nationwide. Canada felt it too. A steel processor laid off 140 workers as U.S. demand dried up. The tariffs, meant to punish foreign competitors, punished American workers and allies. The irony: tariffs were supposed to create a fortress for American steel, but instead destroyed its market. By making cars more expensive to build, demand for steel collapsed. Companies that cheered for protectionism now handed out pink slips. For families in Dearborn, the debate over trade was no longer abstract. It was a lost paycheck, a looming foreclosure. The shock was real, immediate, and personal. The promise of protection had become a threat to survival. The first wave of layoffs was just the beginning. After the steel mills fell silent, the auto plants followed. The cost of every component, bolts, bumpers, batteries, was rising. With tariffs on parts from Europe and beyond, building a car in America became a losing game. The big three, Ford, GM, Stellantis, couldn't absorb the costs or pass them to consumers. They shut down assembly lines, canceled shifts, and idled entire plants. Thousands of auto workers lost jobs overnight. Good union jobs gone in a flash. Foreign automakers with U.S. plants like Kia also took massive hits. The electric vehicle market, once Detroit's hope, was in trouble too. Tariffs hit batteries and electronics, while government EV subsidies were ending. Companies like LG Energy Solution warned of slowing demand. The dream of Detroit as a green manufacturing hub hit a government-made roadblock. The shutdowns rippled through the city, leaving uncertainty in their wake. The assembly line, the city's heartbeat, had stopped. Detroit's future was suddenly in question. Behind the numbers are real people, like Dave, a third-generation steelworker from Dearborn. For 25 years, he worked at Cleveland Cliffs, just like his father and grandfather. Then came the layoff notice. At 52, he's wondering how to pay the mortgage, with kids in college and bills piling up. "They told us these tariffs would save us," he says. "They ruined us." Maria, once proud to build trucks at Ford, saw her line shut down. She's living off unemployment, searching for jobs in a city where everyone's laying off. "I voted for Trump. I believed he'd look out for us. I feel betrayed." The pain spreads beyond the factories. Diners once packed with workers now sit empty. Local suppliers, barbers, mechanics, shop owners all feel the loss. When factories shut down, the whole community withers. It's a chain reaction of economic despair. These stories don't show up in trade deal headlines. They're the human cost of a policy that looks good on paper, but is a disaster on the ground. These families aren't just statistics, they're the heart and soul of the Midwest. They played by the rules, worked hard, believed in America's promise. Now they're forgotten casualties in a trade war fought in their name. Their voices are a desperate plea from the heartland. The pain is real, the hope fading. Detroit's crisis is personal, not just political. The forgotten are waiting for someone to remember them. Will anyone listen? On the factory floor, chaos. In the executive suite, confusion. CEOs who once championed tariffs now face their consequences. Lourenco Goncalves of Cleveland Cliffs, a vocal supporter, soon announced over 1,000 layoffs. He was forced to idle plants as automakers slammed on the brakes. Other industry leaders had warned a trade war would be disastrous, but their warnings were ignored. Now, they scrambled to explain plummeting profits and shuttered plants. The business world was split. Some clung to hope for long-term gain, others saw catastrophe. Even steelmaker Nucor, a supporter, watched earnings fall. Companies like Kia and LG issued dire warnings about their future. The tariffs divided corporate America, pitting industry against industry. The captains of industry were no longer united, they were at war with each other. The tariff turmoil rippled far beyond Detroit. Every corner of the economy felt the shock. Boston Beer Company, maker of Sam Adams, saw aluminum can costs soar, raising prices for every six-pack. German apparel giant Puma's shares fell 17% after warning of losses from U.S. tariffs. LG Electronics faced tariffs from every direction, profits dropping despite a rush of pre-tariff sales. The message everyone pays. Tariffs meant to target foreign companies hit American consumers with higher prices. American companies relying on imports suffered too. The web of global trade is so tangled you can't pull one thread without shaking the whole structure. The pain that started in Detroit was now felt in breweries, warehouses, and homes across America. The crisis split the country. Supporters of tariffs called the pain necessary medicine, payback for decades of unfair trade. They believed breaking global supply chains would force companies to reinvest in America. Layoffs and shutdowns were, to them, a temporary adjustment. They saw a stronger, self-sufficient America on the horizon. Critics saw disaster. They pointed to empty factories as proof protectionism doesn't work. Tariffs, they argued, punish American businesses and consumers, not China or Europe. This group included laid-off workers, economists, and industry leaders. They called for innovation and investment, not economic walls. The tariffs, they said, alienated allies and destroyed jobs. Detroit's implosion was a warning. It was time to change course. As summer 2025 ends, Detroit stands at a crossroads. The city that put America on wheels is now stalled, its future uncertain. More layoffs loom as the full impact of tariffs ripples through the economy. The auto market is projected to slump by 10%. For families with lost jobs and dwindling savings, the coming winter looks long and cold. Can Motor City recover? If tariffs stay, high costs could become permanent, driving more jobs overseas. The dream of a manufacturing renaissance could die, replaced by shuttered factories. Yet, Detroit is a city of survivors. Some see this crisis as a catalyst for change, building resilient supply chains, investing in new technologies. Billions from new trade deals could help if invested wisely. The future depends on choices made now. Will leaders listen to the heartland or double down? Detroit's struggle is a warning. The road ahead is unwritten,